The Certified Professional in Training Management Credential, or CPTM, is designed to convey the essential competencies you need to manage a training organization. When you become a CPTM, you gain access to alumni resources like monthly peer roundtables and a full registration to the Training Industry Conference and Expo. If you start today, you could earn the CPTM credential in as little as 2 months. To learn more, visit www.trainingindustry.com/CPTM.
Welcome to the Business of Learning, the Learning Leaders podcast from Training Industry, where we speak with industry experts and thought leaders on all things learning and development. Welcome back to the Business of Learning. I'm Sarah Gallo, Senior Editor at Training Industry.
And I'm Michelle Eggleston-Schwartz, Editor-in-Chief.
Ongoing training industry research has found that strategic alignment is the most important process capability of great training organizations. But that said, many learning leaders still struggle with this challenge. So to learn more about strategic planning, today we're speaking with Anita Ann Mihelic, a certified professional in training management and Director of Learning and Development at Construct Connect, and Peter Plumlee, a certified professional in training management and Head of Learning and Development at Presence. Anita and Peter, thanks for speaking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Yes, welcome. I'm super excited about this conversation and I think strategic planning is kind of top of mind and a key responsibility for all learning leaders. So I know this conversation today is going to be really beneficial to our audience. And to kind of kick things off today and get started, can you both share more about how you've approached strategic planning in your role as an L&D professional?
Sure. I'll go ahead and kick things off. When I was thinking about this question, I could think of a quick way and a long way of approaching strategic planning. And for me, the quick way of approaching strategic planning is just to follow the same process and the same pattern and the same language as the rest of the company. So at Construct Connect, we have a strategic process that starts with the high level 3 to 5 year plan. And then that gets turned into an annual operating plan with 4 priorities, which gets turned into objectives and key results. And then there's quarterly goals and monthly reporting. So I follow the same exact process. And I think that sets me up to be better strategically aligned. I'm not using a different method, and we're all following the same process if I'm a part of that larger strategy. And then it's also kind of helping me or helping other people better understand my strategy and can literally see it if we're all on the same board, the same JIRA board. And, just speaking the language of the business and the same vocabulary as other leaders just makes it easier to collaborate. So that's the quick way. The long way is putting in the time and the energy to build trust and just build those relationships long-term with these important people in your organization that you have to collaborate with. So obviously leaders and subject matter experts, but don't discount the HR business partners, the talent acquisition team, and where they see needs and gaps. And of course, frontline team members, frontline managers, and just a sense of trying to discover those business goals, the gaps, the frontline challenges that you can help with. So kind of following the rest of the strategic process of the company, and then also just putting in that time, with people. So that would be my approach.
Yeah, really adding right on top of that, being in line with that business vocabulary. We're not just a function in L&D, we really are a business partner helping to drive that success. So making sure you drop L&D jargon, keep that for our own community, but you have to speak the language of your business and really diving in and making sure you know what is driving them and aligning with all of the leaders. And I think oftentimes people stop at senior leadership, but you have to drive all the way down to every single position, as Anita mentioned. Really get to know people, build those relationships, whether you're in L&D separately or considered part of HR. We are real relationship builders. And that's how we're going to build our strategy, is by getting to know what is driving everyone, what is stopping them, and what success looks like to them, so that we can build a strategy that enables them to be successful and also make sure we're in line in speaking the same way they do.
Mm. I love that point about really speaking the language of the business. That's something we hear frequently at training industry, and it really is just so true. I know I mentioned earlier that strategic planning really is so critical for driving that long-term business success. And with that in mind, can you share a little bit more about how specifically strategic planning can help set learning leaders and really the whole training department up for success in 2025?
Yeah, I think by being strategic, strategic can be interpreted so many different ways. I think it's also a lot of being that consultant, always making sure that you are asking questions, really getting away from, hey, we're coming to you at the end to look for implementation and how to get the message out, and initiate that conversation with everyone, showing them that you're really interested in the business and understanding what they're doing and then why they want to do that. I love the 5 whys. I think you can even ask 15 whys by the time you get through it. But by asking those questions and showing the interest, you start to be seen as a strategic partner, not just a communicator. And then you're pulled into the conversation and you can determine with them, maybe that's not exactly L&D. So we're going to have time to do what we need to do, but also, okay, that does come into our wheelhouse. Let's see how we can enable you to make this successful. We'll do what we need to in L&D and deliver the message together and really be seen as that partner.
Yeah. And yeah, I had similar thoughts to you, Peter, especially about asking questions. But I would say the biggest thing for me getting set up for success through strategic planning is that you have a focus. You stay focused on this bigger picture, this bigger vision, the bigger plan. It's a North Star for your team. Your team might just be you, right? I have 2 people on my team, and you stay focused on that. Hopefully, of course, it's aligned with the vision and plans of the company, of course. And so even if things change over the course of the year, you still have this center point that you're focused on. And that keeps you from kind of getting yanked around in a lot of different directions, and maybe even conflicting priorities that people are presenting to you. And you can make more informed decisions about, when do I need to adjust, when shouldn't I, based on those questions that Peter was talking about. And it just helps you communicate better. He said a strategic partner, I think business partner, too. So you better understand them, right? If I'm your partner, I'm going to understand you. If you're understanding that bigger picture, you're probably going to get more higher level leadership buy-in and support and advocacy. And you're probably going to be better aligned with what the business actually needs. And ultimately what comes out is you're creating content or programming or whatever that is actually what people need. And I think that's what we want. And that's ultimately success for learning and development is this is helpful to you. This is relevant to you. This helps you with what you're trying to accomplish. So that's what I would say is helps you get to that point.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I love what you guys touched on there and the importance of asking good questions, because really, I think that's the key to really understanding the needs of the business and senior leaders. So kind of digging in and asking those good questions is so important. So when we're looking at what makes up a good L&D plan, can you kind of walk us through those key elements of an effective strategic L&D plan, and how can L&D professionals incorporate these elements into their planning process?
So I really like this question. And the first thing that came to mind for me is like this number one key element for strategic planning starts with curiosity for me. So when you're curious, I tell people at work all the time, if you're curious, you're going to be fine because you want to learn, you ask lots of questions, you listen, you have humility, right? So curiosity kind of applies internally. You are, of course, seeking any and every opportunity to connect with leaders, people who are creating the business strategy and asking them those questions. What is your vision for the business? What's the goals of the business? But more importantly, I'm trying to ask, what is your vision for L&D, right? What is your vision about how learning and development is going to help accomplish those bigger goals, right? And so if you have that access, that's great. But also, of course, talking to the people who execute the strategy, the people on the front line, where are their gaps? Where are your challenges? What can I help you with on this opposite kind of end of the spectrum? But at the same time, your curiosity cannot be limited to your business. So the most important element that I've learned as part of strategic planning is that it starts 10,000 feet higher than you think it does. And you have to zoom way, way, way out to the entire world, right? You start at a global level. It sounds kind of crazy at first, but what is happening in the entire world that is affecting my industry? And I'm part of the construction industry, so it is absolutely affected by global forces. So you're thinking about that and you move down a level and you say, okay, my industry, what's happening in my business's ecosystem? What are changes? AI is absolutely impacting construction technology. What's going on with my competitors, right? What are they doing? What are the threats and opportunities out there? And then you can bring it down a level and say, what's going on with my customers, right? Being super curious about your customers. What are their needs? What are their challenges? What's happening to them? How do our products and services help them, right? Then you can get into your organization and say, all right, what are the skills and abilities that people need to serve those customers that are dealing with everything going on, right, around them? What are the strengths and weaknesses we have internally? Like, and then you get to your plan and your goals, but not without considering those things. And it feels like a lot. And I don't think you have to be perfect at it by any means. But if you are using that really big picture thinking and you're really curious about all of those layers, you are going to show up as a really informed business partner, and you're going to have a lot better conversations with the people you need to build your plan. So being really curious about all of those things, even imperfectly. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, that curiosity and big picture, looking at mega trends, like what is happening with our workforce and what is happening with AI, whether you're in construction, medical, or the industry I work in, which is natural organic sales, many things still apply to each other. Construction and grocery sales, we both are depending on glass manufacturing or shipping and exports. So really knowing what's happening within that global trade, knowing how it's going to affect your business, and really impressive to your leaders throughout the entire org is when you come back to them and say, I learned about this. How is that affecting what our goals are? And how are we planning on pivoting for those? By knowing what the global and your business goals and challenges are, you can then build your own L&D plan to say, this is how we plan to support you with this. And it's going to enable you to be agile, which is sometimes a scary word, but that is what enables you to have it be imperfect. A perfect plan is never going to happen. You can have the perfect plan, but it's not going to be executed. Something's going to change.
I love that idea that really there is no such thing as a perfect plan. It may sound great in theory, but in reality, not so much. I do want to switch gears a little bit. And since we know that really creating that strategic L&D plan is so important, can we talk a little bit more about how L&D professionals can collaborate with stakeholders and other business leaders when developing their strategic plan to make sure there is that alignment?
Yeah, I think really by asking them what they need to be supported. And it's going to be lots of open-ended questions. Use AI to help you. Yeah, I am just starting to connect with my senior leaders. Here are their positions. Here's my industry. Here are their personalities. Help me come up with open-ended questions to ask them about plans and really looking for what challenges they may be experiencing. But I think something that can be really enlightening is asking them what the success is going to look like. Because if you can understand their picture of success and the celebration of a goal being achieved, then you're both picturing the same thing. And your L&D plan may be a little bit different for yourself or your team of 2 or team of 25, but at least you have the same goal in mind. And that opens up the conversation by knowing you're on the same level. We're both trying to get to that same party at the end.
Completely. Yeah, I agree with that completely, right? Trying to get to the same goal. And kind of circling back on being imperfect, there have been times that, I had to learn the hard way how important it was to collaborate. These times when I thought I had a great idea, I had a great plan. Oh, this is going to be so helpful to the business. And then I go to try to roll it out, and people are surprised. And people do not like to be surprised. Leaders do not like to be surprised about anything they think is going to impact their team, their priorities, their workflow, their time. And so because of some of, a couple or one or two, hopefully in the past, right, missteps, and that's where I developed this slogan is we are team no surprises, team no surprises. And so for me, what collaborating looks like is almost doing a brainstorm of any and every stakeholder you can think of. So obviously the decision makers and the influencers, but your potential critics, your potential champions, who's going to be in my corner, and anyone who you think could be directly or indirectly impacted. You'd be surprised how deep that can go. And then you're going to communicate with those people early and often and kind of almost too much. There are times when I'm like, I'm being annoying, but it's better to keep verifying with them. Like, are we on the same track? Is this helping you? Is this what you need? You're better off that way. It's probably not as bad as you think. And of course, like we've said, asking tons of questions. That's the only way to verify, sort of presenting something. Is this on track? Presenting something. Is this on track? Just continuously verifying. And a really, really great way to collaborate with your stakeholders is to invite them into a pilot or a test run and say, I have this plan. I think it's going to work based on what you told me. Would you like to come in and try it? And we're going to learn together, and then we're going to scale it up. That's a really fun way for people to get involved. So by the time you actually start to do the thing, it's old news, but that's okay because people are not surprised, and they're probably going to be more bought in. They've seen it, they've experienced it. They might advocate for you. And so you've built it with them from the very, very beginning. And then, kind of like Peter said, everyone's looking at the same goal. Everyone feels good. Everyone's excited. That's what you want, ultimately. And collaboration gets you there early and often.
Yeah, that communication is so important. And it's really about keeping ourselves transparent too with our goals. Because anytime you keep something a secret or you're working away and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best L&D plan ever, it's going to fall flat on its face if you haven't talked to anyone about it. And there's so much we have to do in L&D. It's really crazy how the position and role in the company has changed so much. We're not just creating content and thinking, how can I deliver that message? We're strategizing, we're consulting, we're partnering. And with communication, we have to market and getting that detail out there. This is what we're thinking. This is what's coming. It's coming. Look at it. See, it's here. So by the time it arrives, it's nowhere near new news. It's just been a lot of excitement gearing up to it. And I love pulling leaders into some of those initiatives. I had one in the past year that was all about our sales team and really executing a high level of service. And while it was great collaborating with them, I also pulled them into it and said, all right, now you need to do it before everyone else does. And it was fun seeing where they even spotted potentially some of their own challenges and how they then took that back to their teams and supported them through the learning initiative. So it's really great to see that kind of partnership.
Yeah. Just kind of like as a last note on that too, is part of collaborating is inviting. When you invite people in early, I think it's okay to accept that it's okay to invite people in when it's not perfect and maybe it's a little messy. And that was something that was hard for me that I had to kind of learn 8-10 years ago. Is the only way this is going to work is get them in early, and they're going to see some of the behind the scenes going on, and that's okay. So don't be afraid to invite people in when things are, prototype, a little messy, imperfect. Let them be part of it. They feel good being part of it. It's okay.
Such a good point. It doesn't have to be perfect to get the ball rolling and get everyone aligned and testing out everything. So that's such a good point. Another thing I'd like to touch on here is change. Because as we know, every day something's changing in today's workplace. How can learning leaders kind of ensure their strategic plans are flexible and adaptable so that they can adjust when change does happen? Do you have any tips there?
Yeah. So my other slogan, I have a lot of slogans, but it's anything can happen day. Every day is anything can happen day. And if you just accept that out the gate, then you are mentally prepared for when unexpected change or challenges occur. So you start with that attitude. I think learning and development professionals are as a talent, are flexible and adaptable. So like leaning into that for yourself, but then also just being thoughtful and like the theme, right? Asking questions. And so whenever something unexpected comes up, because again, your strategy, like Peter said, could be perfect today, but tomorrow it's not. So when something happens, I usually tell me and, my partner, right? Okay, let's just pump the brakes. We're not going to react right now. We're just going to hit the pause button. We're not going to say yes. We're not going to say no, right? We're not going to resist. We're not going to automatically do the thing, right? Or chase it. We're just going to ask a couple questions, which is, okay, this unexpected thing that came up that I need to address, apparently. Is it already aligned with my strategy? Was this something I was going to do anyway? And maybe I just need to shift it up? Great. Is it aligned with what we're doing as a business, the bigger goal, the bigger strategy around us? Like, if yes, you follow the business, right? Or is it like mission critical? Like, this is an emergency. We just need to do this. We all hands on deck. We're going to deal with it. So if the answer is yes to any of those, yes, go do that. You have to respond to that. But if it's not, sometimes we get people coming to us and saying, well, this is important. We need to do this right now. But what I would do is sort of walk through some change management questions with them. So what's happening? How is this aligned with what else is going on? How many people are being affected by this? What's the priority of this in relationship to other things? When do we need to respond to this? So just asking some more investigative questions about whether you should immediately react to that or not, right, is the answer. How do you respond? Yeah.
And really knowing how it's going to affect the rest of the business is so important. And you don't always get very clear answers from your senior leadership. There may be something that they can't tell you, or they're not quite sure themselves. But because you've already gone big picture and then down to the microscopic level, you've built relationships with people throughout the org, you understand every department and what their role is, you're able to also answer some of those questions with them of who's it going to affect. They're not quite sure. Okay, well, I know the business very well because I'm working with everyone. I can fill in those gaps. And it's where the word agile is always a little scary, because is it an agile model or am I just being agile? So be agile, be flexible. We have to be yoga and Pilates. Something that's really great to do is take some time to step back for yourself, your team, individuals, and also as a group, and look at a L&D maturity model. There's multiples out there, but they're all fairly aligned with, are we reactionary or are we being strategic? And be honest with yourself when you're looking at them, because that's going to help you build your own plan, how to be flexible when things come up, and stay in line with the business. And it's very easy to say, oh yeah, out of 5 levels of maturity, we're level 5. It's like, no. And you're going to balance. Today, you'll be a 5. Tomorrow, you're going to be a 2 because there was a drastic shift and something happened. And that is okay. You don't have to be a 5 every day.
I like that. Keep that in mind.
Like that. Not to be 5 every day.
5 every day.
Try our best. I do want to touch on the measurement piece here because I know that's also sort of a challenge within this broader alignment challenge. Are there any metrics or KPIs that L&D teams can really look at or consider when measuring the success of their strategic plan?
Oh, measurements are so hard. I think literally just got a cold shiver as you asked the question. There, I think it's so hard. ROI is one of the most painful acronyms I hear. But you have to be creative and curious. If you think I don't have access to that data, ask for it. You've built relationships, go to IT and say, hey, what can I get access to? Go to your senior leaders. What KPIs are you doing? Can I look at them? Ask HR. They're going to give you something because they know what you're trying to do. And try to see how you can relate what you've done that relates back to that. It can be very difficult, especially when you're talking about sales or if you're talking about number of construction contracts signed and buildings built. It can be hard. Looking at both that quantitative and qualitative is going to be really helpful. Building a psychologically safe space and remembering you don't have to be a 5 every day. One of the things I like to bring back is ROE, but I call the E emotion. So I'm looking at that return on emotion. Were people supported? Did they feel supported? Did they come back wanting to learn more? Did they go back to their job feeling energized and more knowledgeable? And that can come back to an ROI if you're able to play with some of the numbers. And it's 2025. Play with AI as much as you are allowed to in whatever industry you're in. Ask it questions, toss it numbers, make them fake numbers so that you stay in compliance with your org, but play with it.
Yeah, you're inspiring me. I'm still, I gotta say I'm a baby when it comes to AI. I'm getting into toddler mode though. So it's a good reminder. There's so much that it can do. And to your point, I was going to say the same thing. Like measurement is hard. Measuring learning is hard. So measuring your learning strategy is not going to be easy. So it's trying to think of different ways you can find that evidence, kind of like Peter said. Of course, we know attendance and feedback is lower on the Kirkpatrick levels of evaluation. But to Peter's point, when I see people showing up and engaging and interested, that means it's resonating with them. And adults do that when it's relevant, right? Okay, so I'm relevant. You can ask learners, will you be able to apply this on the job? Did you apply this on the job? In that less direct way, it can still give you a hint about, or am I on the right track here? One informal measurement, qualitative measurement, is sometimes when leaders are seeking me out and asking me, how do I get my team involved in X? To me, when someone's tracking me down and I'm not even having to ask them and they want their team involved, it means it's valuable, whether it's leadership development or mentoring or whatever. Engagement scores. If you have an engagement survey or you put out a survey, we use Gallup Q12, and there's specific questions about, I'm doing what I do best every day. I have opportunities to learn and grow. So that's a great tool for me, even though it's not directly a learning measurement. It definitely reflects how my strategy is playing out with the organization. But ultimately, as the cop-out answer, sort of, is you have to measure what's meaningful to the business. So there's not really one right answer. So the same people you partnered with to help you build that strategy, you have to determine with them, what matters the most, and then close that loop and that feedback loop and report back to them every month, what's going on according to these measurements that we have established are meaningful, and my strategy is on track, or we need to course correct. So it's kind of, whatever is going to resonate most with that leadership group.
I love that. They came looking for us, and that is a measurement right there. These are the number of projects we were presented with and contributed to. That's such a great metric.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that makes metrics hard is even for yourselves. Sometimes you'll ask a leader, well, how do you know this is successful? Or what do you want to see? I don't want numbers. I just want to know that it worked. Get comfortable with that, because you can sometimes be too business oriented, too strategic, and it's not what your senior leaders want because they just want to know it happened.
Love that. Um, I love what you touch on there with measurement. Like it's going to look different across from organization to organization because every company cares about different things. So really finding those meaningful metrics, like you both mentioned, is really going to be very important there. So we've covered a lot of ground today, and as we've discovered, strategic planning is challenging and can be a little intimidating for learning leaders. So, what's one step our listeners can take after the episode to begin building their strategic planning skills?
So I really like this question. I feel like I have a trick answer, a
Mm.
sneaky answer. Um, Decide to become a teacher of strategy. So we all know sometimes the best way to learn something is to teach it yourself. And so you have to go do that learning first. You have to go out to the subject matter experts and the people who are creating your strategy. And you have to learn about your business and your customers and your products, right? You have to go out and do all that learning. And then you have to go teach it in different formats. And there's lots of different ways to do that. So for new hire onboarding, we have a session about company strategy because we want them to understand where it came from, how's it formed, how do you know about it, and how do you fit into it, right? What are you impacting here? We do lunch and learns, right? Basically, where we can talk about strategy, we can talk about business. You set the stage for a subject matter expert to be the teacher, and then you just get to sit in the audience too, and you get to learn along with everybody else. You can make strategic mindset a leadership competency, and then you have to build that into all your leadership development programming, and you have to talk about it. And then there's even sneaky ways to get it in there. So we teach people about effective presentations. How do you make presentations to executives? So we tell them, you have to go find all your stakeholders. You have to understand business goals and then show how your idea fits into those business goals. So you have to walk the walk, right? If you told someone that, you have to do the same thing. So my running joke at work is that I'm really just doing all of this for me, but everyone else can come along too if they want to. But deciding to be a teacher of strategy yourself means that you get better and then everybody else gets better too. So build that skill and then take everyone along with you on the journey would be kind of my best advice.
Oh, I love that. That is so great. Yes, take people on the journey with you. You said it right at the beginning. We have to be curious. And that's what I love about finding this industry is we get to be curious as professionals. So learn about it. There is the training industry with webinars and a community and groups. There are so many webinars out there that are free. So take advantage of those, even if you hop on and just listen to how somebody else was strategic. I think it is so incredible to have that curiosity and imagination to listen to other people from industries you would never imagine are connected to yours. And then to listen and be like, huh, how could that apply at my organization? Anita and I could talk for hours and find so many similarities in how we're going to need to execute our year. And the end of the year tends to be such a big planning time for the beginning of the next year as people are coming back from holidays and breaks. I think it's really great to come back refreshed yourself and just jump into asking those questions. What are we looking at for this year? And you have to be a little bit more bold and just send that email. Walk over to their office. Hey, do you have like 15 minutes later? I just wanted to chat and ask you a few questions because they're rarely going to come to you. So meet them where they're at, wherever that is. And honestly, just try to have fun with it because it is fun to be strategic. You're a problem solver, finishing that last piece of the puzzle, which is L&D.
On that note, Anita and Peter, thank you so much for speaking with us today on the podcast. How can our listeners get in touch with you after the episode if they like to reach out?
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on there. You can connect with me, send me a message, ask about strategy. We can chat. It's the best way to find me, probably.
Well, if you didn't catch on, I love to chat. I love it being on this. So you can find me primarily on LinkedIn, but you can really just find me anywhere with the handle at the Peter Plumlee, just at Peter Plumlee, Plumlee.
For more resources on strategic planning and alignment, visit the description and the show notes on our website for this episode at trainingindustry.com/trainingindustrypodcast. Lastly, don't forget to rate and review us wherever you tune in to the business of learning. Until next time.